Today we're going to be cooking tilapia fillets. They're very inexpensive, very easy to cook, and they're an excellent source of protein. So anybody that's looking to eat healthy, tilapia fillets, it's definitely a good pick. I'm going to go ahead and open this bag up and pull some of these fillets out so you can get a good look at them. So now we're going to get some butter so that we can basically have a sauce for the tilapia, because the only real downside to tilapia is it doesn't have a whole lot of flavor on its own. So you definitely want to add some butter, some seasonings to it. That way you can make it have a really good taste. So we're going to go ahead and melt this. And we'll get an extra stick of butter just for making sure we have enough sauce for all of this, because I feel like making a lot of these fillets. So we're going to go ahead and do a stick and a half of butter. And of course, we gotta have some vegetables. So we'll go ahead and get this onion chopped up. Any type of onion will do really, but I prefer to use a white onion when I'm making tilapia. And we're going to go ahead and slice it again, just so that the pieces are a little bit thin. That way it blends in nice with the sauce and everything else that we're going to add to it. Then we'll start dicing it. There we go. Got some small slices of onion. And then we gotta have that garlic. Now you could do minced garlic, but really, I prefer to just take a clove and then chop it really thin myself. I feel like it has slightly better flavor than minced garlic when it's in the jar. And we'll add another clove of garlic, just so that that original clove isn't lonely. And why not make it 3 cloves of garlic? So we're going to slice this up a whole lot just so that we can basically get it minced down to about the same size that you would have when you buy the garlic pre-minced in the jars. So here you can see we got our melted butter. So we're just going to go ahead and add this garlic into it. That way the garlic is going to infuse with the butter. It's going to release that taste throughout all of that buttery liquid. So now we're going to add some pepper to the butter as well. And this follows the same idea. The pepper is going to mix in with the butter and just release that flavor into it, basically giving us a sauce that's packed with flavor. I'm going to add some sea salt. Now if you're already using salted butter, then you can go ahead and skip the step where you're adding sea salt, but I always buy unsalted butter because personally I think that the sea salt is a little bit better than the salt that they put in the salted butter. And then we're going to add some herbs, a little bit of thyme. And all of these follow the same idea. They're going to release their flavor into that butter, and then it's just going to permeate throughout. A little bit of crushed red pepper flakes. And we'll just dump the rest of it in since we're almost out. And then we're going to grind up some ginger. Ginger is one of the best seasonings to put on fish. Now, if you don't have a grinder, of course you could do this in a food processor. But if you've got extra grinders laying around, they're perfect for this type of utility. There you go. Got ground ginger. Just add a little bit more pepper. And then we want to mix this all throughout. That way it's evenly distributed. And then you can see that this butter is going to start taking on a darker color as it soaks in all of the seasonings. Now I'm going to chop up a tomato. I'm going to put this on top of the tilapia. And if you really like tomatoes, you can go ahead and chop up a second one. Or if you're just making a big batch of tilapia like I am here, that way you're going to have some pieces of tomato to garnish on each piece of the fish. So now for baking our tilapia, we want to go ahead and use a cookie sheet that's lined with tin foil, and then add a generous amount of olive oil onto the tin foil. That way all of your fish doesn't stick to it. And then we'll just spread this throughout. You could also use cooking spray instead, if you don't want to spread out all of the olive oil with your hands. But I don't really mind doing this. So now we'll start laying our tilapia on top of that olive oil. And of course you want to make sure that your tilapia is all washed. That way it's not going to stick to the pan too much. If it's unwashed, then you're going to get fish that's stuck to the aluminum foil. So now we just want to take that butter that we made earlier, give it another quick stir, and then just start ladling it over each piece of fish. Now you want to make sure that you have enough of this sauce to cover each fish. So as you can see here, I've got 10 pieces, and I used a stick and a half of butter. If you're making more pieces of fish, then you might want to use more butter. If you're using less pieces of fish, then you might want to use less butter. Go back for second round, getting each of the spots that we missed in the first round. We don't want to leave any pieces of these fish uncovered. We'll also add some green onion on top of our tilapia. Now you could mix this in with the butter if you want. But what I chose to do instead is just add some of the garnishing to it halfway through, adding the sauce to it, and then I'm going to put the rest of the sauce on top of the garnishing. That way things aren't going to dry out too much. So we'll add our diced onions from earlier. Then we'll add our tomatoes. And again, if you don't really like tomatoes, then you don't have to add them at all to the tilapia, or if you don't like them as much as me, you could just add 1 piece to each piece of fish instead of 2 like I'm doing here. Had to cut a couple more pieces. Then we'll start adding this butter on top, covering each piece of fish again, making sure that we cover that tomato, green onion, and white onion. So then we're going to throw this in the oven. We're going to cook this at 400 degrees for about 10 to 15 minutes. All right, let's take it out and see how it looks. So there you can see, it's sizzling. This is going to taste excellent. Each piece is well cooked. Not too much for the tomatoes to dry out too much. And there you go. Baked tilapia recipe.